Hey everyone, Tony D and Little Joan here with a hot take on a couple of things. Let's start with the big story, of course. Donald Trump is suspended permanently off of Twitter. Did you vote for Jack Dorsey? Because I don't remember voting for Jack Dorsey. Did you vote for Mark Zuckerberg, who removed him off of Facebook and Instagram? Because I don't remember voting for Zuckerberg. It seems to me that the sitting president of the United States should not ever be suspended. I mean, these guys just aren't thinking. They are so hot to appease the incoming administration. What if the Chinese government did a first strike against Hawaii? How would you know? Who's going to tell you? Oh, you're going to turn on ABC News, CBS, NBC. Yeah, they might tell you, I guess. But don't you think the President of the United States should address the nation immediately? And when you cut him off like this, that shows you that Twitter and Facebook are more powerful than the President of the United States. And you may hate Trump. There's some of you out there that, I hate Trump. Good. Well, do you hate Biden? Did you hate Bernie or Obama? What if they had done it to Obama? You wouldn't be happy. This is wrong. Part of this is on Trump. He should have addressed these concerns with big tech earlier in his administration. The day he brought in all the YouTubers, that would have been the day. That would have been the day to announce a huge, reforming of 230 protections. So this wouldn't have happened. And I think this hurt him in the election, and I think this hurt him. Another thing that I think hurt Trump, and I'm not here to disrespect you or insult your intelligence if you believe the QAnon phenomenon. I've been on the phone a couple of days with some friends who are deep down the rabbit hole of QAnon. They're desperate to believe Trump is going to hang on to power, and they'll pretty much believe anything. I don't believe Trump is going to be president now. I thought he had a chance with SCOTUS, a good chance, if they had heard the case. Then he had a tiny little chance with Pence, and I had some optimism bias there, I'll admit. I also thought some of these lawsuits, if they were heard, could have helped things. But they didn't. And looking back on it now, I promoted the Skydle raid. There was a little evidence that it was true. I wanted to believe it. Now, I don't know. And even Sidney Powell at the time said, I don't know who did the raid, the good guys or the bad guys. So it could be very well that the raid was more about cleaning up the evidence than anything else, if in fact there was evidence there. I guess we'll never know. But if you believe the QAnon phenomenon, I'm not trying to insult you or disrespect you, but I do want to address it in a respectful way, because I'm not totally immune to it. I mean, I went down the rabbit hole in QAnon and read the stuff and thought it was cool. I wanted to believe some of it, not all of it. It's crazy. If you can't admit it's a bit crazy, then I think you have lost perspective. Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell both started out as extremely credible lawyers who had done some great work. But now, I think, especially Lynn Wood, in my opinion, I'm not trying to defame the guy, he did do some good work, but he has said some crazy things on Twitter. He has said Jeffrey Epstein's still alive. Okay? To me, that's crazy talk. I don't think Epstein's alive. I don't think they kept Epstein alive. He's calling for the execution of people. And here's the weird thing, I think he's finally been kicked off of Twitter, but it took a while. And look, There's a thing in the CIA known as controlled opposition, and again, I'm not trying to defame the guy, but it seems awfully weird that he would go that far off the rails when he had so many people behind him. He gave a fiery speech in Georgia, but then he was like, "Don't vote for the Republicans. Let's shut them out." And sure, after the runoff, there'd be no reason to vote for Republicans until Trump got back in. But the runoff was important, and it was important to Trump. So why did he go the other way? I don't know. Maybe it's just he had a different opinion. But it seems to me that hurt Trump. Trump wanted those guys elected. It hurt him. Probably hurt him with his own party. They're probably yelling at him, "Get these crazies under control. Why did you popularize these kooks?" I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's what the party would say. And Lin Wood has said things that I had to unfollow him. I mean, it was just too nuts. So, if QAnon's true, I'll be the first one to go, "Wow, cool. Hooray, the swamp is drained and Trump is going to be president for another 4 years." I'll come on and do a video about it, and I'll say, "Wow, this is amazing. You guys really called it." I would totally do that. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is the new deadline, by the way, for the QAnon people is Friday and Saturday. They like to keep it a little vague, you'll notice. Friday or Saturday, some kind of big payoff. Arrest. Okay? The general vibe of it, and remember, these are all like quatrains. It's all an interpretation. Goes something like this. Trump has been spirited away to a Texas military base. He's there now under the protection of the Army and the generals who staged this operation. Okay? They contacted him something like 20 years ago and planned this whole thing in order to capture everybody. He is going to start arresting people for various crimes. Some of them will be the most shocking crimes imaginable, i.e., it's going to be child diddlers, people who have been blackmailed in a satanic cult where they, in order to get power, they had to do horrible things to children on tape, so they would have it and they would be controlled, but in return they would get power and great lives and lots of money. And that is the elite. They've been suckered into that somehow. And not one of them has ever gone crazy and said, I've been suckered into this thing, and there's this whole blackmail thing, and had to do horrible things, and blah, blah, blah. No one's ever gone crazy. No one's, gone on the internet and live streamed and given away their secret. And it goes all the way to the top. And when Trump starts these arrests, eventually he will arrest 98% of Congress, put them in jail. This is after he'll announce the Insurrection Act. And then he'll go after everybody in Congress, 98% of them. Arrest them for treason and sedition, and he has all the proof. He has, proof from various sources, and that he needed to see who was in on it, which is why he needed the vote to happen. And Pence is, he's going up the river too. They're all going up the river. All the big names, all the ones you know. And the guys who defended Trump are staying. And then there's going to be a draining of the swamp. And then, I don't know, I guess a bunch of elections where we get regular people and the Democrats all go to jail, essentially. Except for a handful of them. I suppose a handful of them will escape. So, do you think that that's a realistic assessment of what will happen over the next few weeks? Is the question. No. it's just not real. You know, if it happens, I'll be like, wow, that's amazing. Those guys were right. I should have listened to them. But I don't think I'm going to have to make that video. What I think will happen Friday, Saturday, you know, it'll roll into Saturday. You won't hear anything. People will start, you know, the QAnon people will start getting angry, antsy, like, well, what the hell happened? Something was supposed to happen today. Nothing happened. And then will come the explanation. And it'll be another chapter to this amazing story. And it is a story. And I know it because I spent 15 years doing improv, and I spent my whole life writing stories. You can do it, you know? And it's about these guys who want attention. They want to write books. They want to write fantastic stories and have people hang on their every word. I do too. It's just that I feel that it's dishonest to do it this way. And it is. It's dishonest. This isn't real. They're saying it's real. It's not. So they're going to come out and they're going to say, well, you know, he's going to wait another day, another 2 days, another 5 days, and then the 20th will go by, and then Biden will be sworn in. Oh, this is all part of the plan. This is all part of the plan. No, he's going to be sworn in. They're waiting until he commits some more crimes. And, you know, when that line of story people won't buy it and they start to balk at it, that's when they'll shift again. They'll say, well, he's been betrayed. People on the inside betrayed Trump, and now he has to do something else. And they'll just keep coming up with convoluted stories of why it didn't work, why you can't see proof, why the Martian can't come out of the hangar. But don't worry, the spaceship's in there. You know, it prevents people from doing things that would otherwise, you know, be productive. One of the guys I admire in this whole epic saga of Trump was a guy known as the Persistence. And he was a guy who went all around the country registering people to vote. And more often than not, he talked them into voting for Trump. A lot of these were first-time voters and new citizens, immigrants, you know, people who didn't really want to be involved in the political process, and he motivated them. And I have so much admiration for that guy. He's just great. He was early on. He went around and he's a conservative, and he had a team of people, and they were the guys who went to Baltimore and cleaned it up, like physically picked up the trash. I mean, they did real things to change communities for the better. So I think if you're in QAnon, and again, I'm not trying to impugn you, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but do you think if all the people on QAnon message boards, instead of spending hours trying to discuss the quatrains, they had spent hours cleaning up their cities and registering people to vote and helping people and educating people, that would have been better? I think it would have. You know, for my part, I would like to help change the culture. I sometimes overestimate my own abilities in that area. I've had people praise my work, but my whole life I've struggled to get it out there, to get that patron that could really make the difference. You know, now I'm self-publishing. I'm having more luck that way, and I feel kind of better about that, even though I'm not making the money I really want to. But it's taken me a lot of years to realize it takes so much time. It really does. It takes time to change the world. It takes time to change the culture and the tide here. And unfortunately, we let things go too far, and now it's going to be even more years. It's probably going to be 10, 20 years before things really change. I mean, really change. We're going to be faced with a few years of real, just nonsense from Biden and his goons. And then they're going to overstretch, and that'll be our opportunity again. But, you know, there are a lot of just power-hungry people who will just jump in and try to fill in the vacuum, and there are kooks who will ruin it for everybody by going too far, like a lot of the Capitol protesters. They went too far. I mean, again, don't get me wrong. It was hilarious, except for the people dying. But, it didn't really do anything. You didn't have a plan. If you had gone in there with a plan, maybe you could have done something. Maybe you could have all just sat there and waited to be arrested instead of touching people's stuff. That really irritates people. You shouldn't touch other people's stuff, even government people. I know it's yours, it's ours, it's the house of the people. That's not how you do a protest, though. You go in there with a plan and you do something very specific. You go in there and I don't know, you deliver a petition. You sit around. You don't bust in a window and climb in and just run amok. It's funny, but now people are going to go to jail, and this peasant revolt is going to be put down by the nobility. They're going to come down hard on everyone, and they will show no mercy because they do not want this to happen again. They're furious. They're furious the unwashed would dare touch their garments. They have to learn a really hard lesson. And, the protest wasn't the way to teach it to them. The way to teach it to them is to drain them of money and power. You have to stop and think about where you're spending your money, where you're giving away your power. You're doing it locally, and most people are. And if you could take the local governments, the state governments, if we took them back, the rest would just all fall into place. Think globally, act locally. It's the famous quote from John Lennon. QAnon stuff is just too big. It promises too much. And anyone who promises you that much is probably a grifter. Some of these guys online, I've seen their videos. They seem really intense. They have all these credentials. They talk about things. They talk very smugly, like, oh, well, we all know that the CIA has been running this and that for a lot of years. And I was tracking the Gitmo planes and blah, blah, blah. But they don't show you anything 9 times out of 10. Or what they show you can be interpreted a bunch of ways. Or you just look at it and go, wow, that's cool. It seems real. Unless you're an expert, you know what the hell you're talking about. And I think some of these guys are grifters. I think they just want attention. They like to have a podcast that people tune into. They like people to talk about them and their books, and they sell books. I sell books too, but my books are fiction. Their books are fiction too. QAnon, it's a nice idea. I like the idea. A group of patriots fighting for the president secretly. It's like the Masons. But the QAnon phenomenon is now hurting Trump. So what's that tell you? Why would the QAnon guys allow Trump to be hurt politically by this? If they really existed, they wouldn't allow this to happen. They wouldn't allow it to spiral out of control. The latest thing was there's going to be a blackout or some kind of power outage, right? And then the QAnon guys I know called me and they were like, oh, Parler's down. And Parler went down for like 15 minutes. It happens all the time. Websites go down. I said, go to Gab. And this was right around when Trump got blasted, and then apparently somebody said that Parler has 24 hours to change their policy or they're off the App Store. Yeah, Gab's off the App Store too. But so what? You just go into Safari, and if you have an Apple phone, you could still do it. It's just hard to see. And if they cut you off of Safari, I don't know. I guess you could download a different browser, as Sticks and Hammer says. Get rid of your crapple iPhone. I got mine for the camera mainly, which I haven't used a lot, admittedly, but really wanted the camera. It's a really good camera. So yeah, I mean, you could get Android or whatever, and there's always ways around this stuff. It's inconvenient. I'm considering getting off of Twitter. I'm certainly unfollowing a lot of people who are cheering for the censorship of the President of the United States right now. It's really intolerable to hear writers do that. I'm in the writing community, I mentioned a few times on Twitter, and it's just infuriating to watch the politics of those writers because they're all exactly the same. 90% of them are exactly the same. They all have the same virtue signaling politics that everybody else on the left has. They talk endlessly on Twitter about nothing, and it's a bit narcissist. But now that they're cheering for censorship, I can't support them. I can't support them at all. I've unfollowed a bunch of them. I will unfollow anyone who supports censorship. You are disgusting if you do. And this is disgusting. You know, he's kind of a bizarre billionaire hermit. I don't know what's going through his mind. I don't know how much money you need, Jack, but this does not lead to a good place in my view. This whole idea of the Great Reset or you social engineering people, it's gonna blow up in your face bigly. We're headed for some dark winter, as Biden said. We truly are, mostly of his making, and his minions. But again, the Democrats tend to overreach, and then they just get blasted. And I know the most secure election ever, honk honk wink wink, but they're not going to be able to make it secure again, because I think a lot of the people who honk honk wink wink secured that election, they didn't do it for the money. They did it for their hatred of Trump and their love of anybody else, and that's going away. Yeah, over the next 2 years, the Democrats will destroy what love they have, and there's very little of it. There's very little of it. Yeah, and you're going to see that the monster they created in Antifa bite them in the privates, and it's going to be fun to watch. I have to admit, it's going to be fun to watch what they do to Lindsey Graham. That's already happening. He's already being called traitor by the Trump supporters, and it's just a matter of time before the Democrats throw him under the bus, figuratively, not literally, and AOC and the Democrats are going to be eating each other alive. So there's some stuff to look forward to, but the QAnon stuff, I think, I'm not saying you're crazy. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I think you should take a good hard look at it from a more objective perspective and really ask yourself, am I following this because I'm entertained and I'm just LARPing, or am I following this because I want to believe and I'm, putting too much hope in something that's just not realistic? So I had to face that. I wasn't like a huge QAnon guy. I just read some of it and thought, oh, that's kind of cool. But, I went down the rabbit hole on Skytle. I thought it was real. I thought a few other things were real. They weren't. I got some stuff wrong. Sometimes I get stuff wrong. I'm not a reporter, but I try to be more careful now, and I think QAnon promises too much and has delivered on nothing but entertainment. So I ask you to consider that, and perhaps doing something for your community, doing something else, just doing something else other than doing QAnon. I think it's kind of a brain rotting thing.